morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. I just had a little deja vu come over me, Lindsay. I don't know why that is.
Because you keep seeing me in a different outfit every day?
That must be it. Somehow I don't think that's what it is, but who knows?
All right, Robby, what's on your radar?
Let's get to it. In the mainstream media's telling, conspiracy theories are something that belong almost exclusively to the media's enemies on the political right. The COVID-19 pandemic helped make this framing more popular among liberals. Today, progressives often belittle, mock, and sneer at their conservative friends and family members for supposedly believing in kooky fringe ideas. Indeed, I talked yesterday about one liberal thinker, a former Obama speechwriter, admitting he used to snub a more conservative-leaning family member for disagreeing with him about vaccines. What else? I'm here to tell you, though, it's not just those zany right-wingers like me who believe in crazy conspiracy theories. Elite, smart, morally praiseworthy liberals, well, they fall for insane ideas too. And here's a perfect example. Joyce Carol Oates, a well-known and popular author and teacher of creative writing and a card-carrying member of the liberal establishment, Joyce Carol Oates, she seems like exactly the kind of person who would shun a right-wing family member for being wrong about COVID or Trump or any number of subjects, you name it. But does Joyce Carol Oates admit to believing some kooky things herself? Well, of course she doesn't. And yet look at what she wrote on X yesterday on the one-year anniversary of the Trump assassination. While anyone, from a shy child to a Green Beret veteran, would duck down immediately in a panic, shriek away from having been struck in the head by a pebble, let alone a bullet, instead Trump, and she can't even bear to write his name there, so you see what she did with the writing of Trump's name, stood up proudly and raised his fist for photographers without hesitation. Is it unreasonable to assume that only a person absolutely certain that there would be but a single shot, that he was not in any danger, could possibly behave as Trump behaved? Yet the media would have the public believe this, as if it's some sort of insider joke or code like pro wrestling kayfabe, where you thought you know wrestling is scripted, you must not say so, nor will anyone else. End quote. Are you confused by that? Well, look, what she's saying, to be very clear, she thinks the Trump assassination was a false flag operation, i.e., Trump or his supporters arranged for a fake assassination in order to garner sympathy for Trump and orchestrate that legendary photo of him bravely standing up, raising his fist for political advantage. And if you don't think it's clear she's saying that, here were her follow-up tweets. It seemed rehearsed, the positioning of officers to allow a hokey publicity shot of Trump with a fist raised for a MAGA poster. The call shoot her down certainly came too quickly. How could anyone possibly know there wasn't a second shooter? Secret Service would surely be more thorough. She adds, impossible to believe that in the confusion and panic of that moment, anyone in his right mind would wish to stand up and face another bullet. Let's get one thing straight. The attempt on Donald Trump's life 1 year ago in Butler, Pennsylvania, was not staged. It was real. It was perpetrated by a deranged gunman who wounded Trump in the ear. But for the grace of God or some higher power or fate or sheer dumb luck, Trump narrowly avoided being killed. A man in the crowd behind the president, Corey Compratore, was not so lucky. Compratore, a devoted husband and father, died because someone tried to kill Trump. Really tried. It's not fake. It's not made up. It's not part of some plot. It wasn't intended to be a photo op or a campaign tactic. How Trump reacted in the moment was real. It in fact showed real courage. You can be mad that it helped him, that the way he handled the situation resonated with and impressed many Americans, but you cannot deny that it was real. If you do that, you are a conspiracy theorist. Joyce Carol Oates, she ought to know better, but this radar, it's actually not about her. Forget QAnon. This is BlueAnon. It's just as false and harmful and offensive when good and smart and well-meaning liberal people believe crazy things about Trump or anyone else.
I think the point is, like you said, someone died. This was a real assassination attempt. And so Joyce Carol Oates needs to just accept the reality and also hope that never happens again, because it was a huge failure upon our Secret Service, who has one job, which is to protect political leaders, most specifically the president. But I also think we've created this space on social media and in society where immediately, that comes from the top down, we are saying incorrect or conspiracy theory-like things upon times of tragedy. I said that most recently in Boulder when the incident happened and everyone wanted to blame the Democratic Party because of some rhetoric they had around that could be considered anti-Semitic, causing somebody who was a migrant to commit a crime. That's not a Democratic Party fault. I also said that when the accident happened with the plane in Washington, D.C. right here, and we heard President Trump immediately say, well, DEI could be involved here. I don't think that's appropriate. People died. We have to have some sense of decency across the board. And I also know specifically with this incident when there was an assassination attempt, I raised my eyebrows at Representative Mike Collins of Georgia because he wrote something on X immediately saying, quote, Joe Biden sent the orders. And I think that is
that was bad.
Very wrong, right? Because that makes it seem like Joe Biden immediately came out of whatever he was doing and said, this is not right. Let's make sure I'm happy President Trump is okay. Like, you never want to see that happen.
But I'm sure he got criticized and condemned by every Democrat, by every mainstream media outlet, like the spread of misinformation. Is there going to be any article about Joyce Carol Oates and her followers? It's not really just her. I was looking on Twitter, and you shouldn't try to get overly perception based on social media responses, but this is apparently something that tons of liberals believe. Even on Twitter, I bet on Blue Sky it's 10,000 times worse. They really think, first of all, you can't fake something like this. You can't, there's no way to shoot so accurately that you just graze Trump's ear. I love when people think, love is the wrong word, when people think you can just, that she's watching too much Mission Impossible. The police, anyway, you can't fire with that amount of accuracy. Like when people say, why don't the police just shoot the person in the leg? They're not trained to do that because it's not reliable enough that you would just wound someone when you shoot at them. First of all, you could shoot someone in the leg and kill them. They could bleed out and die. They could have a heart attack because you shot them. If you shoot at the ground deliberately, the bullet could ricochet and hit someone in the head or hit someone else. So it's just a totally misunderstands how firearms work. That level of accuracy is not reliable. Maybe there's some really talented sharpshooter people who can do it, but at that distance, you couldn't guarantee you would not kill Trump.
And I think around that time there were so many baseless claims, right? We had the wrong shooter, which, like you pointed out, that's something that happens far too often. We have people on social media just making up ideas, and people of power, people who actually have followers who are representatives or speaking voices for these different left and right parties. And I think, yes, you're right. There are people who go way too far on both sides. But I think specifically when you have someone deceased or an act of violence, specifically political violence, these are times when you should say, okay, pump the brakes, maybe not appropriate to insert my opinion here if it's conspiracy theory, like when someone got hurt, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so I think that has to be the undertone coming from the president down. That should set the tone for the rest of the country.
I think many liberals are just mad that it was a pretty impressive moment, regardless of what you think of Trump, for him to have the bravery and then also the political savvy to note that standing up and saying to the crowd that he was all right was going to make for a very powerful moment, was going to make people admire him, was good. The crowd also, it should never be discounted how appropriately the crowd behaved. There were shots fired. People didn't panic. People didn't rush. People didn't trample each other. They got down. They behaved very responsibly, and even as someone was killed in their midst. And it's always nice to see ordinary folks reacting very admirably, appropriately in a difficult situation. So.
Agreed. Next up, despite President Trump's apparent annoyance with the Epstein files, many are still pushing for total transparency. We'll be right back.
President Trump seems fed up with the Epstein files buzz, but Republicans, Democrats, and even a celebrity who flew on the disgraced financier's private plane are continuing to push for transparency. Now, Trump made a scathing Truth Social post today, writing, "The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, and my past supporters have bought into this bull bleep hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years."
And here's President Trump speaking on it yesterday.
But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
Speaker Johnson also weighed in on the matter, seeking to try to resolve the issue once and for all. Here he was on political commentator Benny Johnson's podcast.
I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. Look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. And Pam Bondi, I don't know, when she originally made the statement, I think she was talking about documents, as I understood it, that were on her desk. I don't know that she was specific about a list or whatever, but she needs to come forward and explain that to everybody. I like Pam. I mean, I think she's done a good job.
Congressman Ro Khanna tried to force a release on the Epstein files by adding an amendment to the unrelated bill the House is going to vote on. The House Rules Committee rejected the measure, 7-5, with only one Republican voting in favor. Khanna said after the fact, quote, "We won't stop until the files are released. This may have been our first attempt, but the public will not be gaslit. We will keep fighting for transparency."
And even actor Kevin Spacey, who's admitted in the past that he did fly on Epstein's private plane, is pushing for the files to be released. He posted on X yesterday, "Release the Epstein files, all of them, for those of us with nothing to fear. The truth can't come soon enough. Hate to make this about me, but the media already has."
Trump has no idea.
Weird.
He has no idea why anybody cares about this. Kevin Spacey jumping in this chat, unnecessary. He should have probably just bowed out of this one and just, take it.
Well,
but
Kevin Spacey faced his own.
No, I know.
Me Too. Although he did, those went to trial over and over again, and he won every single.
And that's what I'm saying. I probably would bow out of the conversation that
has
has to do with Epstein or young people. If I was Kevin Spacey, just stay over there. Don't jump in there.
Young girls for Epstein, not for Spacey.
Well, the point, either way, if I was Kevin Spacey, I would just focus on something else. But for Trump to act confused, I watched that 40-minute or so press conference that he impromptu did outside yesterday. And I was so fascinated by all the questions about Epstein, but then his responses that were very much like, I can't fathom why people are so interested in this. Why? It's so boring. Like, what? What? That is the biggest... I was so surprised that this is what they're going with. He knows why the people are so obsessed with this, and I think it's a smart move for Ro Khanna to try to push this through because there is bipartisan understanding that this is interesting to constituents across the board, and even for the people like me who were not interested in this case a year and a half ago. I was like, all right.
Now you're interested in it because
now I'm interested in it because
Trump?
No, because it looks crazy. The fact that everyone just did this huge 180 and the whole positioning has changed, and they went from it just is like, wait, are they hiding something? Because I really am not a conspiracy theory and didn't believe that there was much more to see here. I thought that the man committed suicide. Now I'm learning that the video was Adobe Premiere edited. I understand what that means. Like, it should just be a raw file from a prison. Regular MP4 with no Adobe Premiere or editing.
Maybe like me, they just found it impossible to delete their Adobe account. It's so hard to unsubscribe from this service.
You can't defend this. I know you want to see them release this stuff, so don't even take a secondary position.
Hold on. I will say, in fairness to Trump, there is more, I don't agree with him, but there's more consistency in his standpoint vis-a-vis Epstein than has been appreciated. Trump himself had said in an interview a long time ago, I believe with Fox, that when they're asking, would you release this, would you release that? And on Epstein, he said, yeah, I'd release it. That one's not as important. I think, there might be names in there that who knows if it's fair to them or they were just in there and they're not involved. And, we can't, that would be unfair to people. But yeah, I'm for releasing legitimate stuff. He had kind of like, I guess we might do it. The real hypocrisy is on the people who voted for Trump, defended Trump, supported Trump, who promised to release everything, and who made this a big
campaign and
issue.
His administration.
Yeah,
these are not the regular people. We're talking about Pam Bondi. We're talking about
those are the
Kash
people.
Patel, who was like by his side. Like, these are people that
Fair enough.
This is your crew, right? Okay, so
and it's wrong to say Trump saying they're only Democrats and liberals care about this. Well, only Democrats and liberals care about it now because it's a way to make the Trump movement look hypocritical, so they're focused on it. Yeah, all of a sudden, so many Democrats are like, oh yeah, Epstein files. I didn't care about this until 5 seconds ago, but now it's like the NPC meme where your brain gets reprogrammed.
That's
the
me.
new thing.
I admitted it.
I guess that's you.
This is entertaining.
But
I would like to know.
it's not true that only Democrats and liberals care about this. This has been a huge issue for MAGA base, many independents, libertarians, social media involved people. Our show, Rising, has focused on this issue a lot, has had a lot of interviews with Epstein-interested reporters and journalists and figures over the year. This got retweeted into my timeline this morning or last night that we interviewed, me and Ryan Grimm and Emily Jashinsky when they were part of Rising. We did an interview with Alan Dershowitz, who was an attorney for Epstein, who was actually accused by Virginia Giuffre, where he talked about massages that he got while with Epstein, although from adult women, and it was kind of a newsworthy headline. But then, of course, Virginia Giuffre recanted the accusation against him. And now he's been on TV, Dershowitz, saying that, oh yeah, there's way more stuff in the Epstein files. I know all about it. I can't say because of attorney-client privilege, but there's more stuff. Like, if the guy who was the attorney for Epstein and who was himself accused says there's still more stuff, you can't just, like, write that off.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about here. Also, the underlying message, I don't know that all these Democrats are really interested in Epstein, but I think that maybe the Democratic leaders are just interested in this because it's salacious and attached to Trump. But the Democratic people and voters are interested in this because they have been yearning, just like Republicans have, to break this bureaucracy up, to break up the status quo. It's why Cuomo didn't stand a leg against Mamdani, right? It's that same energy. I think that this is a real people at home saying, no, release the files. Maybe we weren't interested in this, but if the government is hiding something, if that's the route that we're going to take to say that this may be a bigger issue, then just make it clear and transparent so that we can understand. And I think this could be a bipartisan issue.
It's like a cringe boomer thing not to care about the Epstein files release. They're still focused on, like, whatever, JFK or something. Epstein is our JFK. I don't care. I don't want to hear any more about that whole thing, that whole situation. We've moved on. Our thing now is Epstein files.
I think both,
we, the millennials, the Gen X, the Gen Z, we, the young people, want disclosure on this issue. This is our white whale. It's time to kill the thing. It's time to release it. And I don't want our boomer political establishment to say, oh, who even cares about this? No, we care. It's our time.
And Trump can break the chain of tradition by doing something differently than we saw with JFK, right? There was a lot of ambiguity around it, no
and that's
answers.
why it persisted for decades that we felt like we didn't have the whole story because of the lack of transparency and the secrecy and it being, a weird situation to have a president assassinated and then the person who assassinated him himself assassinated a few days later.
And it never goes away, so people are just going to keep making stories up and making up a reason why and where, when.
Well, next up, a new CPI report shows that inflation is again rising as President Trump is gearing up to impose more tariffs. What this could mean for your wallet, don't go anywhere.
Essentially, they were exactly as anticipated, very low inflation. So what you should do is lower the rate. The Fed should lower the rate immediately.
President Trump is downplaying inflation rising last month. A new CPI report shows June's inflation saw a 2.7% increase year over year. Now that's the highest level since February.
Several key household items saw their prices jump last month. Things like toys, household furnishings, appliances, and clothes all saw higher prices in June.
You might have also heard Trump again demanding that the Federal Reserve lower interest rates. The last time interest rates dropped was December. They have remained unchanged ever since. Toys increase in price. I want to get, maybe that's why we can't afford to put anything in this bowl here.
Because toys would be there.
Little decorative thing. You guys can't see it on screen because the words are covering it right now, but
all this uncertainty is really poison for the global economy.
Yes.
Trump acts confused, kind of like the Epstein file and the confusion in the interest. He acts so confused about why people are panicking, why inflation rates are rising. Like the Fed follows a formula. They don't just lower rates because the president tells them to, right? They are an apolitical organization. And so that is part of the problem that he keeps arguing with.
Ostensibly apolitical.
Okay,
Things
but he keeps
can be
arguing.
apolitical and have an agenda of their own.
Okay, but all these tariffs, even like the ones on upcoming for Mexico and Europe, these are going to affect produce, like your avocados, right? Medical equipment, surgical supplies, like across the board, electronics, even alcohol, a lot of tequila, I don't know.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
Even alcohol, I don't mean it like that. I mean, in general, this is going to affect so much. And just read the room. It's not the time. This is not the time where anyone can afford one more dollar. Like, I know outside looking at it, it might seem like most people are doing better than whenever, but realistically, prices are high, things are expensive, and people are wildly uncomfortable, feeling uncomfortable, no matter how many polls or studies come down that things are slightly better.
Yeah, I think being laser focused on keeping the price of goods and services and foods and everything you're discussing low is good politics. That is what propelled Trump to his victory in the most recent presidential election, was the sense that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, and Obama before
Obama's fault.
had wrecked the economy with too much spending, which raises prices. We got to get inflation down. I have a lot of skepticism of some of these tariff policies. I think we want to persuade other countries to lower their tariffs on us. We want to get the European Union to not do those charges that they add on to everything, and then to not harass our companies. We want to be operating in South America, in China, in India. We want to be, competing on the global marketplace. More punitive tariffs is going in the wrong direction unless they're just a negotiating tool in order to get everybody to lower them. But, if people are feeling the pain of increased prices, increased gas prices, increased food prices when they go to vote next year in the midterms, that will be very bad for the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an endless back and forth. And you think about all these conversations around tariffs, or initially the strategy was something that could be seen as admirable, right? More dependence on our own, right? U.S. First. And international dependence comes down, and we talk to countries directly like that and bring jobs here. But in theory, it's totally different than in practice. And so I think at this point in the juncture of where we are in our economy, putting that on the backs of Americans to have them spending more on everyday things is a huge problem. It's also a huge contradiction within the Republican Party. Jasmine Crockett brought up recently, Representative Jasmine Crockett, she was saying, listen, how are you guys going to put taxes on many things, including baby supplies, like high chairs, car seats? Are you going to put, because you're family first, right? The Republican Party, conservative, family first, are you guys going to waive the taxes for items specifically like that? And there wasn't really a clear answer from any of the Republicans about yes or no. And so I think that that is another red flag, because these tariffs don't just hurt certain people who don't agree with you. These tariffs will hurt everyone. Also, lowering interest rates, so I'm not an expert on this at all, encourages people to borrow more money and can create artificial bubbles, and is not an end-all, be-all fix. It can create short-term benefit for long-term dysfunction. That's how you get bubbles, is encouraging people to borrow that beyond what they are capable of paying back is something to be very wary of. Yep. After the break, is President Obama sounding the alarm on his own party? That's my lens coming up. Welcome back to Rising. Lindsay, what is in your lens today? Well, at a private fundraiser in New Jersey, President Obama issued what should be taken as a wake-up call to his own party. He challenged Democrats who are frustrated with the state of the country under Trump to do something about it. Not tomorrow, not the next election cycle, right now. As Obama put it, quote, it's going to require a little bit less navel-gazing and a little less whining and being in fetal positions. And it's going to require Democrats to just toughen up. He didn't stop there. He called out the same progressives who proudly stood behind him during his presidency, wondering where that energy disappeared to. He said, quote, what I have been surprised by is the degree to which I've seen people who, when I was president, or progressives, liberals, stood for all kinds of stuff, who seem like they're kind of cowed and intimidated and shrinking away from just asserting what they believe, or at least what they said they believe. Billionaire businessman Mark Cuban echoed this frustration on Pod Save America, though from a little bit of a different angle. Cuban thinks Democrats do have a message, but it's the wrong one. Take a look.
We picked the wrong pressure points. It's just Trump sucks. That's the underlying, thought of everything the Democrats do. Trump sucks. Trump says, the sky is blue. Trump sucks. You can't, that's not the way to win. It's just not. Because it's not about Trump. It's about the people of the United States of America and what's good for them. And how do you get them to a place where they're in a better position?
Whoopi Goldberg disagrees. She recently pushed back. Here she is on The View this week.
With much due respect to you both, I believe you are pointing the finger at the wrong person when you say Democrats.
And listen, I love Whoopi. I spent time with her during my stint co-hosting The View. But this time, I think she's totally missing the point. Obama's not criticizing the average voter or rank-and-file Democrat. He's calling out the silence of Democratic leaders specifically, the ones who spent billions of dollars warning voters that Trump was an existential threat to democracy, only to follow up with nothing. No unified strategy, no economic plan, just more reminders that, quote, Trump sucks. To Cuban's point, Democrats have reduced their platform to little more than that. And data proves it. So according to the New York Times, before the last election, Republicans were making steady gains in working class counties. Democrats, well, they were growing almost exclusively in wealthier, college-educated areas. Even Bernie Sanders saw it coming. He warned Kamala directly before the election, telling her the party was ignoring, quote, pocketbook issues and focusing too much on converting Republicans instead of reconnecting with working Americans. After that defeat, Bernie didn't mince words, writing on X, quote, "It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned the working class people would find that the working class people have abandoned them." And that's the heart of the problem. Trump's 2024 win wasn't a fluke. It was the result of years of Democratic neglect in working class America. Back in 2016, Democrats had Russia to blame, but not this time. The loss is on them. They're throwing money at the problem and it won't fix it, nor will endlessly searching for this new Joe Rogan type of person to magically speak for the party. What voters are asking for isn't complicated: authenticity, fresh thinking, and real solutions. Look at Zohran Mamdani, the socialist who just won New York's Democratic mayoral primary. Why did he win? Because he talked about exactly what matters: jobs, housing, healthcare. He spoke to the economic discontent, that the same force that fueled Trump's rise. Mamdani understood that the establishment refuses to admit the economy isn't working for average Americans, and they're desperate for someone who gets it. But here's the kicker. Democrats actually have an opening. Trump's approval is slipping. Inflation is on the rise, like you just heard. His economic policies and tariffs are backfiring. Americans don't like the way he's going about immigration reform. Americans are uneasy. They're ready for an alternative. But Democrats can't fill that role if they're stuck in what Obama called, quote, fetal positions. This is a call for courage, a call for realignment, a call for unified action over ideology. It's a time for Democrats to stop whining, stop chasing Republicans, and start fighting for the people they claim to represent. Otherwise, get ready for more red maps and more heartbreak.
Yeah, as far as Obama's concerned, when he says things like Democrats should toughen up, do the hard, it's kind of slogany and rhetoric. Like, well, what does that actually mean? It doesn't bother me. I don't think it's necessarily bad advice or wrong advice. It's just a little substance-free, which tends to be what Obama does these days, when he speaks at a college or something. I mean, I don't mind a lot of what he says. Sometimes he'll even kind of chide progressive activists for being overly obsessed with wokeness. It seems kind of clear to me that wokeness annoys him, which I appreciate. Mark Cuban is someone I've always kind of admired. I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. I respect that he's a very successful businessman. I think a lot of his policies and economic ideas are decent, and he's, I think, correct that just shrieking Trump sucks is not a appealing message. So I agree with the thrust of the radar.
So I thought that people might think about Obama in a way of like good message, maybe wrong messenger, because he's played kind of neutral. So I want to play this clip from Charlemagne that actually voiced the same concern as you.
Sure.
It's mind-boggling to me when I hear people like President Obama say things that regular, everyday people been saying for years. We've been saying Democrats were cowards. It's just wild to hear President Obama say that now, as if Democrats haven't been cowards for the past decade.
So my only issue was that Obama, rightfully so, decided to do Netflix and other adventures with Michelle Obama, and so they bowed out of when it was crucial time to have executive decisions be made in the party. And I think that he went with what the status quo was, which is, okay, we're pushing Joe Biden through and all. So that's my biggest critique of him saying it, but the message is still something.
Yeah, Obama's not very popular with the left, is he? Right? He's popular with liberals. I think left people don't like him very much.
Oh, I don't. That's not what my read on the situation. But I do think that it's coming from, it feels a little condescending, but the point's still there, because what makes up the Democratic Party is not just the leaders, right? It's the people. And the people in the Democratic Party, I think, largely are like the same way that in the right and Trump's base is moving more towards the right and becoming MAGA. I think like people on the left are moving more towards the left and want leaders like Mamdani to lean all the way into those policies.
Well, do they want those? They want those policies, then I think many on the right would say, good, please promote those policies, because those policies are terrible and won't be popular. I think Mamdani
can't put them in any worse situation than Trump is doing right now. We just talked about, he got an F in the first 100 days.
Oh, it can get a lot worse under socialism.
He's bringing inflation
Socialism,
up.
you wait in line for
with
bread.
Iran for 12 days. I mean, Trump did a lot. That's not exactly
it can get a lot
ideal.
worse. I mean, every country that actually implements socialism has horrific depression and then a political repression and ends up like killing all the people that wear glasses. So let's,
That's so extreme.
Well, that's what happens under socialism. Is a form of extremism where the government centralizes control of the economy and then erases or reduces political rights in order to maintain the committees hold on the government.
And I don't think
very
Mamdani's
bad.
plan is to have that done. I think his plan is
Well, I
more
wish he
to
wouldn't call
think
himself a
about the
socialist,
everyday
then.
people.
Yeah.
I think he's co-opting the word, right? He's thinking about the everyday people and figuring out how most people can get
Okay,
their
if I
fair
said I'm a
shake.
Nazi and I'm going to do just the good parts
No,
of
that's so
Nazism, would
extreme.
you
That's-
say, well, I think he's just co-opting the word, it's fine. I don't know why socialism is any less a bad word than fascism. It's killed just as many millions of people globally in the last century as extremist ideologies on the right.
The point is that Mamdani's presence is something that people obviously were looking for him to be an established candidate like Cuomo, who's known all around New York, and a current sitting mayor who's not even running
I
against the
hate
party.
Cuomo. It's not a, for me, it's not a, I would never vote. Cuomo is so loathsome and contemptible to me that I don't have any, I'm not like sad that Mamdani beat him there because I hate Cuomo that much, but, and as do many Americans, many New Yorkers. So that's not that surprising, but this socialism thing, it's not a great idea, my friend.
We're just going to leave it there. So
Okay.
let's talk about what's next.
Next up, President Trump is calling one congressperson a scam artist. Find out who it is next. Guess who President Trump thinks is a scam artist in Congress? Well, it is Senator Adam Schiff. Surprise, surprise. Those are Trump's latest words to describe the California Democrat over alleged mortgage fraud. Trump is now calling for Schiff to be brought to justice. Is he right or wrong? You decide. Trump writes on Truth Social, I have always suspected Shifty Adam Schiff was a scam artist. Now I learn that Fannie Mae's Financial Crimes Division have concluded that Adam Schiff has engaged in a sustained pattern of possible mortgage fraud. He continues, mortgage fraud, very serious. Crooked Adam Schiff, now a senator, needs to be brought to justice.
The Federal Housing Finance Agency sent a criminal referral to the DOJ requesting further investigation into Adam Schiff, claiming primary residence of his home in Maryland, according to a senior administration official. Schiff's spokesperson says he maintained a home in Maryland to use when working in D.C. They also say the mortgage lenders were aware of Schiff's intended year-round use of his homes in Maryland and his home state of California, like most people who are in politics. As a reminder, Schiff previously served as a member of the House Select Committee investigating January 6th riot when he was in the House. He responded to Trump's words, writing, quote, "This is just Donald Trump's latest attempt at political retaliation against his perceived enemies." So it's not a surprise only how weak this false allegation turns out to be. And much as Trump may hope, this smear will not distract from his Epstein files problem. Some other users on social media are pushing back against Trump's words too. Co-host of The Five on Fox News, Jessica Tarlov, writes, quote, Donald Trump calls for Adam Schiff's prosecution minutes after inflation numbers come out showing inflation increased in June. Coincidence? No, I think not.
Oh, Jessica. That's the liberal on Fox News saying that, not
The
Fox
one.
News.
Listen, if Adam Schiff committed mortgage fraud, let's investigate it. I'm down to investigate it for sure. But I think that it is brilliant coming from President Trump. Him being the one that has financial fraud literally on his record, right? So remember, his own company was convicted in 2022 of 17 counts of tax fraud.
Yeah, but that was all
17
BS.
counts of falsifying business records. No,
all
just
BS.
because you say something over and over again doesn't make it true.
No,
It
it's
actually
trivial.
went to trial. He lost. That's what's on paper.
Should never
Adam
been brought
Schiff
in the
literally
first
has a
place.
house in D.C. like most Congress people and has a house in California, which makes sense, and he wants to investigate him for that, talking about a scammer. Trump literally scammed people with an entire university historically. Like, he has an entire past of being a scam artist. So this is like, that's the choice words coming from the president is ridiculous. Shifty Schiff. It's a funny one-liner, but it actually relates more to him than it does to Adam Schiff. That's like a ridiculous suggestion. And this is also obviously, very clearly, a political retaliation for the impeachment.
Let me tell you what I think here. I think that Letitia James, Tish, in New York, when she came after Donald Trump for allegedly misrepresenting the value of his properties to get some kind of loan, but the bank that made the loan didn't feel like anything had been misrepresented. Remember, this is the government coming in and saying, no, I find this transaction to be unlawful, even though I, Donald Trump, asked for money, and a bank said, here's the money, and the bank didn't feel ripped off and was happy to make the deal again. I would say there was no crime here. And yet, you know, Democrats, Letitia James went after him.
Do you believe in our justice system? Yes or
no?
no?
Are you beating your wife? I mean, that's, what
do you believe in our justice system?
I believe the government should kind of butt out of private transactions that don't involve them.
The justice system told us that Trump is on record a fraud and a scammer, okay, based on what he did. And no matter if you agree with or disagree, that was the law of the land. So we will find out if Adam Schiff is also a fraud.
Okay, I'm saying this is, my point is, this is similarly trivial. His house in Maryland should have been labeled a second home. It shouldn't have been. It was labeled incorrectly to get the mortgage. They say it was just kind of an administrative error, and it's been fixed. You know what? I'll be perfectly honest. It seems kind of trivial to me. I don't think it's that big a deal, but I can be intellectually consistent and say, yeah, you can always check some box wrong on a form and break the law and get in big trouble. We over-criminalize everything. The criminal code is vast. If they concentrate, if they look at you, if they look at all your records and all your tax filings and all your everythings, they will always find something you did wrong, and they can always go after you. So I actually am not eager to have Adam Schiff suffer consequences for this because it's kind of stupid, as was the prosecution of Trump for a related thing. People focus on, when political people, the system is weaponized. The Justice Department is weaponized. The criminal justice system is weaponized.
The most hypocritical
People
move of all
understand this.
time.
Progressives understand this when it comes to poor people or people of color disproportionately facing the brunt of the criminal justice system. Well, if you're a political enemy of the state as well, you can face disproportionate punishment.
I just want to know,
So
do you really think
stupid.
that Trump is seeking justice? Because I do not. And so he's just...
And you thought Letitia James was just seeking...
Yes,
she
I do.
ran on putting Trump away. That was part of her campaign.
When somebody commits a crime, that's what it is, a crime. When they falsify documents, that's a crime, okay? Particularly attached
and I went,
so I'm just
and
saying,
I took my scooter on the sidewalk briefly for an area where there's a big hole in the road where I'll fall off if I go through it, even though you're not supposed to have the scooter on the sidewalk. So I guess the whole justice system can come for me now because I broke the law.
So that's how you
today.
want your president to lead. Well, you did it to me. I'm going to do it back because he said he's not going after his
I would rather no one do it either.
Well, he's doing it now. So are you proud about this? Because we have a lot on the agenda. Inflation, bringing down the war in Russia and Ukraine.
It sounds like you liked it when it was Trump.
I wasn't egging
Trump,
it
and
on.
you don't like it now.
I'm actually on record saying that they need to stop this. It's going on, and they're wasting taxpayer dollars and time on this. So I'm consistent in that thought too. But now that we're here, and President Trump has said openly he doesn't plan on seeking out or attacking political enemies, quote unquote, even though Biden didn't believe him, so he pardoned a ton of them. Adam Schiff is now becoming the point person for him to retaliate against.
He's getting a
and so you
taste
like
of his own
retaliation,
medicine.
you like pettiness,
I don't like
you
it.
like tit for tat. That's what
I
you
don't.
enjoy. Yes,
No,
you're
I
just
don't.
saying that because you're telling me that you want to see this happen with all the other issues
I don't think
happening.
I said
You
that.
want Trump to spend his time on this.
I don't think I said that.
So do you want him to stop then? I would like you to.
Well, I would like him not to do it, and I would also like the Democrats not to find any pretense to put him in prison, which is what they were doing for years.
And I
will
said when
continue to
Jasmine
do,
Crockett was going to look
including
into
about
impeachment
all
again,
of Russia.
That was a waste of time.
With Adam Schiff was the leader of the whole Russiagate conspiracy, which was founded on nothing and turned up no evidence of improper behavior on the Trump part. Yes, the Russia campaign. Russia sought to help the Trump campaign in a variety of ways, didn't amount to much. The whole social media influence part was the most overhyped narrative in the history of the last 10 years, and that everyone in the media fell for it, that, oh my God, Russia hacked our election. No, they targeted a small number of people on Facebook, didn't move votes, change anything. He was at the forefront of that whole collusion narrative, and he's a really, I think, not good political operator for that reason, but that doesn't mean he should be in prison. This seems trivial to me.
Okay, so what are the next steps? Who's going to be the bigger person, right? If historically you didn't like Letitia James, what Letitia
Neither
James
Trump
did,
nor Adam
so
Schiff
Trump's
are
not going to be the bigger person?
I can confidently assert that no
so
one
we're
is
just going to
be the
keep
bigger
wasting
person.
time and money
Yeah, I guess.
investigating Congress people because Trump doesn't like them, and you're okay with that.
And they're going to investigate him because they don't like him.
I said, well, if I had a solution, I told Jasmine Crockett when she said we should impeach Trump again, that is not okay. That's not appropriate. Taxpayers don't want that. Everyone is like, enough.
Yeah, well,
so I think that you should also condemn the moves of Trump right now as, very political and very motivated and targeted just to appease his base that wants to see Adam Schiff go down for personal reasons. Has nothing to do with anything actually relevant.
I think I said it was trivial, and it seems trivial to me. Maybe there's more to it. They can look into it. It was referred for. I mean, it's not Trump ordering this, right? It's not. Trump didn't wake up and say, find me something Adam Schiff did wrong. It's the Justice Department operating.
His Justice Department.
Well, yeah, but. Okay. But it was fine when it was Biden's Justice Department? They never did anything wrong?
I didn't say that. I'm just saying
All right.
that's where we are.
All right. Next up, Senate Republicans have advanced a $9 billion package of DOGE spending cuts. We will have more of that next. Stick around. Senate Republicans voted to advance a $9 billion package of DOGE spending cuts, which would draw back funding for foreign aid and public broadcasters NPR and PBS.
The vote passed with a 51-50 narrow margin, and Vice President J.D. Vance broke the tie. Republican Senators Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Mitch McConnell teamed up with Democrats to vote against the bill.
Originally, the White House planned to remove around $400 million in cuts to PEPFAR, the Bush-era foreign aid initiative designed to battle HIV and AIDS, but after a meeting on Tuesday, White House Budget Director Russell Vought told reporters, quote, PEPFAR will actually not be impacted by the rescissions. This bill must pass in the House before Trump can sign it into law. Senate Majority Leader John Thune called the package a, quote, significant down payment on getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse in our government.
Here is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on MSNBC yesterday.
And why in the world would we ever enter into a bipartisan negotiation to try to arrive at a spending agreement that meets the needs of the American people? They're just going to come back through this rescission mechanism and undo the parts of that agreement that they don't like.
Well, this is great. I have been so happy for Congress to finally do something. For weeks, for months, I've been saying Congress must act. DOGE just doing spending cuts, identifying them, and having Trump via executive order cancel spending is not going to hold up in court. There has to be rescissions where Congress votes to undo the spending, and you can actually do that without needing the filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, which you'll never get. So this is great. This is what DOGE wanted to do. This is what Republicans ran on, identifying programs that the American people don't want to spend their taxpayer dollars on. And so I am glad.
I agree with you that it is less serious if it's the executive order and Elon Musk suggested, and then in the
they suggested, and now it's been done.
So now actually to come to the desk of Congress is the right way to go about things. However, when you have 3 Republican senators saying this is not appropriate, they don't want to see stations that are public access stations go away, then obviously you should listen to the voices of the constituents, right? They're trying to tell you that maybe this doesn't have to come on the back. And I told a whole,
they're squishy pseudo-Republicans.
No, they are.
Come
on, now they always have a new name for Republicans that just make one dissent. That's the problem with
they can
MAGA.
Dissent.
They can't ever dissent, or else you're kicked out of the party.
As long as they dissent in not enough numbers to actually right? They take turns in who dissents so that we still get to 50, 51.
I know that you care the least, and I don't mean this in any malicious way, about international aid, right?
Yes.
And that's where the majority of these cuts are coming from, which I think is the wrong move. But also there's a huge amount, over $1 billion, that's going to be cut from public TV stations, and I don't think that that's the right move. And I think that these senators who disagreed, that's their main point. This is not a good idea. We're cutting this for what? And to what end? What are we replacing this with? Because the access is key. Even if you don't like Sesame Street, you like to know an Amber Alert. If you don't have a cell phone, you like to know what's going on in your neighborhood, right? You want free information that is unbiased. And I think that is what is disappearing, unfortunately, on the chopping block. And
well, we argued a lot about that yesterday.
We did.
People should go back and check your lens from yesterday for our argument there. You know, I get, without relitigating that entire argument, what about American people who say, okay, well, I would still like some funding for Sesame Street because my kids watch that, but why are we sending billions overseas to mitigate the harms of diseases in Africa? Why do the American taxpayer dollars have to be spent on that? They restored the funding for PEPFAR. I understand PEPFAR is a very successful program that doesn't cost a lot of money for the amount of lives saved it does in HIV/AIDS prevention, but again, how can you, I don't know how you can make the argument that the American taxpayer should always be on the hook for people being, I mean, I'm in favor of being charitable. Charitable organizations should do that, and people should give to those causes, just causes, but why do we have to pay for it?
Part of it is
forever?
Part of it is a little bit of a moral obligation, I think. That's the right thing to do. But the second part of it is actually a logical obligation, because people might come over in our country at some point and visit and bring over different diseases that we're not, stopping or putting a hold on.
This is not COVID. This is a disease. I mean, this is not a contagious. I mean, it's.
No, they're fighting $8 billion
part of the population
fighting diseases around the world, and I think that we don't want to see that happen.
PEPFAR.
If we can do something about it, why would we not? Why would we not try to help people in the
There's
world.
always
if there's a
someone
allotted
in the
budget, I know, but you
world,
can't
my
make this
dear,
voice. It's just
who
called having
needs-
empathy. That is
Well,
what
I have
the
empathy,
United
but I
States
don't-
stands on.
no,
We
I-
are the superpower, and it's just the right thing to do.
It's just the right thing to do. It commits you to spending an endless amount of taxpayer dollars on causes all over the globe. I think the American government's moral obligation is to the American people, not to the people of Somalia or Ukraine or Israel or Palestine or Egypt or Brazil or anywhere else. It's just to the American people. It's our government. We pay into it.
It's just, I'm also America first, Robbie, but I just think that you should have a more nuanced view on what we should do as a superpower, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, I'll say this about with Russia and Ukraine, right? We have to deter dictators to say the small guy should not be picked on in this
Do you
way.
see the difference between...
But we have to say that about foreign nations that don't have access to simple things that can change lives, save children. Like, we can also give back in those ways. And one billionaire can give back
emotionally
also.
manipulative.
No, that's not manipulative, because you'll also say billionaires should go do it themselves, and they have. Bill
Should
Gates does
and
it
must
himself.
are different terms. I draw a distinction between you ought to, this is good of you, and you should be required by law. Because if it's taxpayer dollars, we have no choice in it. The choice is, or you go to jail if you don't pay your taxes. That is coercive morality on behalf of other people, and that is what I am ideologically opposed to.
The people are going to say, shame on you.
That does it for us today on Rising Live. Thanks so much for watching. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way today right after this. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you can listen to podcasts. See you later.